Right. Well, Shashank, it's been a bit of a slow news week this week, but even though it's been a little bit slow in terms of AI news, I think there's still a lot of interesting topics to discuss. Have you seen this new Manus model? It seems like kind of where everybody thought agents would go, and now it seems like China is kind of leading the way in making really useful agentic computers. Like, what do you think about this?
Well, yeah, I think China is definitely leading the way in a lot of the recent AI breakthroughs. I mean, DeepSeek was just a massive moment that shook the world, the stock markets for one, Nvidia for another, and just proved that not only can China make frontier cutting edge models, but also do it at a price that we've never seen before. Manus, on the other hand, the one benchmark that I saw was like the Gaia benchmark, which is I don't know too much about it, but it seems like a complex thinking benchmark that is broken into three categories. One is like easy, medium, hard. But like the biggest difference between like DeepSeek and Manus is the fact that Manus is closed source. We have no idea how much money they're spending. It's not really available to users, so we haven't been able to do a vibe check. The only thing that they're touting is the fact that it's really good at these benchmarks. And we also don't know what models they're using underneath. They could be using just off the shelf ChatGPT, OpenAI, Google, Claude, Grok, or even DeepSeek. So a lot of unknowns, but it is still really promising. And it is ushering in this new trend of inference time compute, having people pay to solve problems, and running the models more in like an agentic reasoning kind of a way, as opposed to the one shot, the GPT 4.0 style of LLMs.
Yeah, for sure. So, when I look at Manus, I think that it's a lot more than a model, right? And I think that from what I understand is they could probably pretty easily switch out what models they're using. And it's more of a complete kind of solution in order to solve problems, right? Because I think that when we think about LLMs, right, an LLM or like a large language model is only one tiny piece of solving a problem, right? Like an LLM is just really good at autocomplete, but LLMs by themselves are really bad at math. They can't run code directly by themselves. LLMs can't do research by themselves. LLMs can't call an API. They can't do like research. They can't. There's like a lot of things they can't do, right? Pretty much the only thing an LLM can do is predict the next best word of all the words before it, right? Which is useful, but you need to have the LLM kind of uh, be aware of the world around it and be interact with the world in order for it to solve more useful problems, right? So, and I personally thought when, for example, when ChatGPT started being able to search the web, it became a lot more useful, right? Because when ChatGPT in the past was first launched, I think it had a knowledge cutoff of like December 2021. So that means if you wanted to know like what's happening today, what the current time is, what the weather is, you would have no idea, right? So I think that it was something like Manus is they're using an LLM, but then they are giving it access to the world and giving it access to a bunch of tools that it can call. So it like the Manus can go and call search APIs. It can look up stock prices. It can do a online searching. It can write computer code. It can run code in a terminal. And I think that something like Manus, as they get new LLMs and more models come out, they're going to be able to, I assume, probably swap it for something better, but they will be able to keep the tools the same. And as they use more tools, And as the models get better, this is just even get a lot smarter.
Yeah, so I think the most direct comparison would be to OpenAI's Operator, their preview tool. I don't know if it's fully live yet. I can't use it right now, but the Operator tool of OpenAI can open up like a virtual computer, browse the web, take actions in like a live browser, go click buttons, drag things to your shopping cart, take actions on your behalf. In addition to, the agentic behavior that the O1, O3 models have, and the deep research capability that is also like tangential to this discussion. So Operator, I think, is like a more direct comparison because Manus seems like a general, I guess they're branding it as a general AI assistant. And we can actually chime in a little bit about the Gaia benchmark. So I was actually just looking up what are some of the tasks in this benchmark? So benchmarks are amazing. Just to frame this discussion, we had, what was it? The Arc AGI benchmark, which was, again, broken by OpenAI's reasoning models, O1 and O3. And it proved that, you need some kind of a common yardstick to compare all these cutting edge tools. Otherwise, it's like we're all doing vibe checks, which is important to figure out if this model is good for you. But having a solid benchmark, I think, is very important to push the industry forward, to have like competing alternatives that all try to solve this problem from different angles. So the Gaia benchmark is a general AI assistance benchmark. So contrary to a lot of the previous benchmarks that have focused on research, figuring out like complex mathematical questions, scientific research, this is a very simple benchmark that everyday people can use. So it is focused on tasks that are simple for humans. And I think on average, human participants can score like 92% on Gaia tasks, whereas the best AI agents were able to do about 65%. And I actually looked at the leaderboard, and it's really surprising. Manus made the news. It seems really like a really big breakthrough in the media. But if you look at some of these leaderboards, there's tiny no-name startups, research firms, I think like individuals who are like hacking away, building algorithms that can like top these benchmarks. Again, I think Manus is better than some of these random solutions on the leaderboard for this Gaia benchmark. But you can't discount individuals trying to push this field forward too, because this is so new. Maybe it doesn't take a lot to build a generalist AI agent, especially if you have like a powerful LLM like Claude 3.7. That's doing most of the heavy lifting for you. So yeah, this benchmark is supposed to do very simple human level problem solving things. Like I think I'm just spitballing here, but something like buy something for me, figure out like the cheapest or like a good laundry detergent for me, order it, and boom, bring it to my door. Yeah, so this tool from Manus, it aced the benchmark with like an 85%, 84 something percent, which is nearing human performance. So that's going to be really exciting, especially in enterprise use cases, because all the low-level, entry-level tasks or junior roles that are doing data entry or something a little more tedious, I think can be automated by a general agent like Manus.
Yeah. Do you know what a human level performance would be if
It's
Manus can
92%.
get, oh, 92%? Okay.
Yeah. And Manus has
All right.
got 86.5.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's interesting because I was trying to find the actual benchmark online, and I see a lot of these other um, teams that are making things are in the 50 to 60% kind of accuracy. But if Manus can get 85, I mean, that's
Well,
really good.
just to clarify, there's 3 levels. Um, it's made up of like a lot of non-trivial questions with unambiguous answers. Um, but like they require different levels of tooling, autonomy to solve it. The level one is pretty easy. That's where humans have like 92 and Manus has scored 84. And there's other ones that have scored like 70, 60, 78 even. But as you go up to the higher levels, like level 3 is only a 30% completion rate on the leaderboards. So maybe you're looking at the average scores across all these different levels.
Could be. Actually, I'm a bit confused. Do you know what the difference between like level 1, level 2, and level 3? Are these just the complexity of the tasks?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure specifically what kind of tasks, but the Hugging Face leaderboard shows level 3 indicates like a strong jump in model capabilities. So that is the hardest level.
Okay. So we could say that like Gaia is just a benchmark where it has a bunch of tasks that LM to do, and then it has like level 1, which is the easiest, level 2, which is maybe slightly harder, and then level 3, which is super hard. And it seems like the current state of the art models are only able to get maybe 40% on level 3, where a human would be around 92%. So it still seems like we're closing in where the models are getting better at easy tasks, but there's still a bit of effort needed in order to reach human level intelligence and human level capability on the hardest ones.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it might just require unlocking more tool use. So allowing these websites to maybe like sign in to your Facebook account to do some research for like your specific use case or something that just hasn't been built yet in terms of infrastructure. But I don't foresee the actual LLMs pushing this benchmark that much higher. I think it's like everything that we add on top, like the reasoning capabilities, the chain of thought reasoning, and the agentic behaviors where, you know, you critique yourself, you try something, or you try something like a bazillion times and then pick the best answer, reflect on your answers and correct yourself and go out there, search for better answers, and then continue with your problem solving.
Yes, and I think that's a really important point that you make, that it's going to be things around the LLM which are going to give us the next kind of gains in intelligence, because I think that it shows that we're running out of money in order to continue to train these LLMs. I mean, if you look at, I think, Grok's new data center, it was like $5 billion or something like that. That's a lot of billions. And it's really hard for companies to, I mean, maybe some big companies can pay $5 billion, like if you're a hyperscaler, but it's one thing to pay five, it's another thing to pay 50. And if you want to get something even better, it's a whole another thing to pay $500 billion. Now, maybe like governments will start throwing money at this. There is that Stargate project where the U.S. government was trying to spend, I think, $500 billion. But I don't
That
know.
was before the DeepSeek announcements. I haven't heard anything about that project since it came out that you don't need that much money for these models.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that um, it would be potentially. I'm pretty convinced that if you had $1 trillion and you used that to buy GPUs, you'd probably get something that's really, really good. But if you could just give the models access to some tool calling, maybe some more reasoning capabilities, maybe have access to some APIs, I would posit that that may be more beneficial than simply just throwing more GPUs at the problem.
Yeah,
Anyways,
and we can see that with OpenAI's GPT 4.5 announcement. It was not just lukewarm; it was very negative. They're like, OpenAI has failed with their latest generation model. It is way too expensive. It's not that much better. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking that the next leap, next big jump is not going to be by building models that are much bigger. It's going to be with everything, the meta layer on top. And I'm actually curious to see if there's any company that is trying to collect training data for agents. So it's like if you think about the humans getting 90 something percent at this general problem solving task benchmark, like what steps are they taking to solve this problem? I think if we can break down the sequence of actions that a human being takes and scale that up to like hundreds of thousands of examples or millions of examples, and then train an agent based on that data, I feel like we're going to get a much better performance than like throwing more compute on the next GPT 4.6 or 4.9 model to eke out just a little bit extra percentage points at the expense of like a lot of compute.
Yeah, so I think that's similar to what Scale AI is doing. My understanding is they are doing some stuff where it will allow you to buy some of their data for powering your models. I don't know much about Scale AI, but I think that's what they're doing. And also I've heard recently that there's kind of a trend where people are paying people who are an expert on something. Let's say you're an expert radiologist or you're an expert fill in the blank tax accountant. They're paying people really good salaries to go and then train these models. So I think that's coming, and maybe that might be a new job in the near term future. I don't know if it's something you would be able to do for 40 years, but for the next couple of years, I could see where companies will start hiring people to just give all your knowledge to the AI.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this on one of the previous podcasts, but like I started seeing ads for experts to come and solve some kind of math problems on Instagram. So it's like it's happening right now. They're trying to find people in your area to go out and solve things that can then be replicated by AI. And before, I think it was like simple question answer kind of tasks, but now it's more complex reasoning, chain of thought that requires like multiple steps to solve. But yeah, it seems like big models are not cool anymore. It's all about the agentic behaviors and smaller models too. Speaking of which, do you want to talk about the other topic of conversation we had in mind?
Yes, but before we do that, I want to talk a little bit more about Manus, just to kind of talk about the capabilities that it has. So Manus, as we kind of were mentioning, it is able to solve a lot of arbitrary problems. And they have examples on their website of things that it was able to do. And you're actually able to run the example. So I just want to, kind of share with the audience a couple of the things that this was able to do. So one thing that I tried last night was I tried to say, hey, deeply analyze Tesla stock. So this was actually something that I found really interesting because in the past, I've tried to build an agent that was able to do this, and I found this actually really hard to do. So in the past, and I think
Like
I've described this on, yeah.
to like build out a whole project with the prompt, you mean?
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to say like, hey, can you find what the intrinsic value of Tesla stock is? That's something like I tried to do in the past. And Manus actually has in their example of how they were able to find, analyze what the price of Tesla stock could be, right? And I thought it did a really good job. So what it did is it it created a Tesla stock analysis dashboard. So on the dashboard, it has things like, actually, I don't know. Let me see. Can I share my screen on this for the video viewers? Let me see if we can do this. Okay. Let's try this. 1 second, everybody, as I try to share this screen. Okay, cool. So can you see the screen? Okay, cool. So this is what Manus made for me in part of their examples, but it created a Tesla stock analysis dashboard. So on the dashboard, it shows what the 52-week range is. It shows what the financial performance has done over the past few years. it shows kind of the evaluation, which it suggests. It's like, okay, here's the current case. It's like, oh, we think our base case is this amount of money. Our bear case is this amount of money. Our bull case is this amount of money. It did a bunch of technical analysis, showed
And are
Tesla's
these
market position.
real values? Are these actual
I
values?
I think so. Yeah, let me double check. So the Tesla stock analysis. Let's see. What is the Tesla current price? Tesla price is 262.67, and the it looks like the Tesla stock they had on here was 284. So it seems close.
When did you do it?
I did
Earlier
this
today?
last night. So it seems like the number was maybe a little bit wrong.
It's
Uh,
maybe lagging by a few days. It was around that range a few days ago.
yeah. So I'm not sure exactly where it got it. There might be some caching issues. So I guess this shows that this isn't perfect, but it's cool. This is a lot more than I was able to come up with, because I remember when I tried to make an agent that did something similar, it was really hard for it to terminate. It just continued to research, where it would go and like start researching Elon Musk, and then it would start researching all about Elon Musk and all of his politics, and then it never actually got to a point where it was able to just give me like what the value was. And I think that it seems like Manus did it. So Manus went and it created an entire website where
Could you
you could
scroll
go
down a
and
little
then,
bit?
yeah, sure.
Oh yeah,
So it
the pie
created
chart.
all of this. Oh, this pie chart? Yeah. So the pie chart on what Manus made is it showed the current Tesla EV market share. So it shows that like Tesla is 18%, BYD is 15%, Volkswagen's 14%, General Motors 8%. Like really cool. Like it's really amazing that an agent was able to do this in a couple of minutes, where this would have taken me, if I was trying to compile all this research together, it might have taken me like a couple days, or maybe a week in order to gather all this, and maybe even longer to actually go and create, a beautiful dashboard like this. But using Manus with just a couple of minutes, it's able to make a beautiful research report showing everything about Tesla. And then if you can do this with Tesla, you could probably do this with any stock, right? And Manus also was able to do like a lot of other stuff as well that was really interesting. So
Just to
it's yeah.
chime in real quick, I'm looking at some EV market share pie charts, demographics, and this is not very comprehensive. There's a lot of companies that aren't included here, and Tesla's isn't 18%. BYD's a little bit more. Maybe they're picking market share within the US, and yeah, so I feel like this is kind of like what you would expect of a junior analyst or like an intern. They do the job. It's just they get a lot of stuff wrong, or like you mentioned, not converge on the answer and keep going down a rabbit hole of research.
That's a good point, because when I saw this at first, I was thinking, wow, this is really, really impressive. And I didn't actually go and like sanity check it, which
Yeah,
now I
like what
regret. I
market
probably
cap is
should
it
have.
showing? What is $900 billion?
I think that is the total global EV market cap. Or actually, now I'm confused because this shows Toyota is 285 billion.
Yeah,
So that's kind of confusing. What is the Tesla market? I thought the Tesla market cap was over a trillion,
it's
wasn't it?
close. It's close actually. Yeah, I take it back. It's close. I think it's a few days behind, but it's close for both
Okay.
Toyota and Tesla.
Yeah, so now it makes me wonder, where are they getting this information from, right? Because it could be where it is um, not getting the most real-time information. But I think that is not necessarily a slight against Manus. It might be an issue of where the actual raw data they're getting is from. Because I think I would have that same issue, right? Where sometimes when you look for something, you're going to find something, maybe for last year or 2 years ago, you might not get the most real-time, up-to-date information. It's not like, I think that if you hooked up something like Manus to a Bloomberg terminal where it's able to get real-time information, then, I mean, that is game over for a lot of this analysis. So I think that it's maybe someone like Bloomberg or somebody should actually be the one who makes this, or maybe a company like Manus needs to, partner with somebody like Fidelity or one of these brokerages or something to just get like super real-time information, so you can run better analysis.
Bloomberg did have like Bloomberg GPT 2 years ago, but I don't think anything has come out of that. No new announcements. The latest article that I can find is from last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen Bloomberg GPT. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm pulling up now. Oh yeah, it seems like Bloomberg came out with a 50 billion parameter model.
That was 2
A
years
couple
ago.
of
That's what
years.
I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, March 30th, 2023. So that was just 2 years ago.
Yeah, so when I saw that, like I really thought that Bloomberg is going to do something massive in the financial space, because my mentality was data is king. Whoever has the most data is going to make the best models, is going to have like the best reasoning capabilities. And I think OpenAI was kind of proving that. Google also, because, of their search dominance. With video, I think Google has done a really good job. My assumption is because they have YouTube with all the data that they get uploaded every single second. And so my thought was, if Bloomberg, which is tapped into all the financial data, I think all the analysis of stocks, all the research that they do on the market, on like different segments, I think if they were able to power that with like an LLM, they would really take over the financial markets. But like, I don't think anything mind blowing has come out of that since 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, these things are
And a
hard.
couple anecdotal conversations that I had with financial managers and people who access Bloomberg and work with these tools. They said it was just like underwhelming at the time. Not sure if anything's changed since then.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of these agentic things, it's going to be who is able to connect to the best data sources that are going to win, as well as have like the best software. So I think that right now it's anybody's guess as to who's going to actually do it the best, right? Because I know for a fact that compiling all these data sources together is really, really challenging. So maybe you would need something like Zapier. So for those that don't know, Zapier is a tool that is able to, it's like a no-code solution for connecting to a bunch of different APIs. So Zapier would be able to do something like, oh, if somebody tweets a particular hashtag, write that hashtag into a Google Sheet and then send me an email. So you could kind of make workflows like that. And I think that if you were able to connect an LLM to something like Zapier, and you're able to connect it to a lot of tools, it's going to be super valuable, especially if you can have it run code itself. And I think that is a really big engineering task, and it will just take a lot of times. I think this is similar to what Amazon has been trying to do with Alexa Plus that they just announced, where you want to give all the Alexa capabilities, but you also want to give it access to things like the current weather, what's on your calendar, what music you have, what notes you have scheduled, what Amazon.com is selling. All these things are extra work in order to give it to the LLM. And, we don't have LLMs that are capable enough yet of making all those connections by themselves. And I think that currently, as it stands today, a lot of that integration work is going to take a lot of engineers working really hard. And we're going to need a lot of people working on making these integrations with these data sources and feeding into LLM and kind of combining them all together. And I think that's going to probably take literally thousands of engineers and a couple of years to actually build something that is where we expect these to be today. I think that it's close, but it'll take a while.
I couldn't disagree more, man. I feel like that's a prime example of what AI is good at for doing tedious tasks that software engineers, it would take engineers a really long time. So if you want to build an integration to something, what do you need? You need its API. You need to add some libraries to interface with your product, your servers, your client, whatever. And I'm assuming all the integrations are going to be very similar. So it's going to be tedious, repetitive, copy paste for most of the stuff, and maybe like a little bit custom work for the actual tool that you're using, which has like a different kind of API, different parameters. But all of those things are things that LLMs are amazing at. Not figuring out macro analysis of the EV market at large, because, you know, that does require a lot of thinking. But tedious code, as Claude has shown, as Anthropic has demonstrated, coding is one of the most popular use cases for at least their models. Like 30% of use cases for Claude, Anthropic's model, has been coding. And I think these kinds of tedious tasks, integrating with other APIs, is a prime example of something that LLMs shine at.
So I partially agree with you, but I also partially disagree. So I think that these LLMs are not at a point yet where I would trust them to fully integrate the API and then just put that into production. Maybe some people would, but I think that if you're a legitimate company and you want to make something that is not just riddled with bugs, you're going to need to have at least one engineer kind of babysitting this to make sure that the code that's written is actually good, right? So I think that, let's say you wanted to have an LLM that was able to just tell you the weather, right? Well, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to hook to some sort of weather API like AccuWeather or something. And then you're going to need to be able to read in the weather data and then respond with that, right? So at a minimum, that's going to take one developer, right? So maybe pre-LLM, that might have taken a developer, let's say, 2-3 weeks to actually make the integration and then
Well,
make it production.
this is an interesting topic. Let's break that down. So the high level requirement is providing, let's say, Alexa, like a voice assistant, with weather capabilities, or let's say like an LLM, because LLMs can't do it today. So let's say we have our own LLM. We're using like DeepSeek or some open source model, and then we have an interface, and it doesn't know how to read the weather. So we want to give it weather reading capabilities. What did you say? What kind of high level requirements would that entail?
Right. So I think that if you wanted to give the LLM the ability to call the weather service, right, the first thing you need to do is be able to have the LLM call a weather API. Let's say, I think AccuWeather is one of the big ones, right? So
Okay.
you need to go and then make an account at AccuWeather, set up some billing. And I don't think I would trust the LLM to do that yet. So that you would need an
That's
actual
fair.
person to do, right? Maybe the LLM could set up the billing, but there is no way that I'm going to give the LLM my credit card data yet.
Here,
And
take my card.
I mean, maybe someone's bold enough to do it, but I would not do that. And then you'd have to set up like some software to call that API and then give a response back to the LLM. And then also the code that is going to be running on the LLM needs to be hosted somewhere, right? So you might be able to use some sort of cloud provider where you're able to host it on there. But in order to put the code on the cloud, even though I could have an LLM probably do it through some APIs, I don't think I would trust it because I'd be really worried about my bank account. Because I would want to make sure that whatever code is hosted is not going to bankrupt me. Because it's really, really easy to spend a lot of money with these cloud providers, and I'd want to be very careful so I don't just run up the bill, right? So that code, I'm going to kind of put myself, like, publish it myself. Now, I might use some tools, LLM. I might use the LLM to help me do research to help me figure out how to publish it. But for that, so the code that I wrote, I'm going to publish on the cloud. and I'm going to do that myself, right? So to summarize, right? So far we have the actual payment to the cloud provider for the weather. I'm going to do that myself. The actual hosting, I'm going to do the majority of myself, but use the LLM for research. Now, the actual physical task of writing the connection logic between the LLM and the API service, I think that is where some of the time may have been saved, right? Because I think that where a developer that might have taken them a couple weeks maybe to actually do that integration with that API, you like I could probably have the LLM help me write the code, but then you're going to still need some like human to go and check that to see like if uh, it is mostly bug free and the logic makes sense, because this is calling an API, and every time that I call that API, it's going to cost me money. So I want to have somebody go and then sanity check it to make sure that it's not just going to continue running out my credit card bill and do something incredibly stupid, right? And then so these are the three things, and I think that all three things, right? Like maybe it would have taken a human, let's say, I don't know, a month to do all of that and push it out to production, have it all tested, right? Like pre LLM. Now I think post LLM, all that work might be able to be done in, let's say, a couple days or a week, right? So I think that like you've maybe like major development work, maybe 3 times, 4 times faster. Like I think I agree with that, right? But weather is only one functionality, right? I think that you're going to want to do this for a lot of different functions, right? Like you're going to want to be able to do this for calling stock market data, doing web search, doing like looking at calendar events, looking at like your music library, calling travel APIs, right? There might be, let's say, 100 or so APIs that you would want to use in order to have something that's really, really valuable, right? So let's say each thing was able to you took like a week to integrate with each API, even using the LLMs. So, I mean, that's like 100 weeks, if, right? So now if you had like a couple developers do that, maybe you could have like 10 developers working 10 weeks apiece, maybe like add a little bit. So you could maybe do like 100 integrations in like a year-long project, something like that, assuming like add a little buffer time. I feel like that's probably how I would estimate this, but still, I think that you would need like a lot of developers in order to make this happen. And that's like assuming we're just like using the cloud, and it's not assuming that we are going and like running all the infrastructure ourselves, right? Because if you are not just running on the cloud, but let's say you have your own servers which you're hosting this on, or like maybe you're creating your own data center, or maybe you're hiring QA to work on this, or maybe like you need a project manager because, well, it's like, well, now you have 10 developers or 20 developers, and so, well, they need a manager, they need HR, then like soon you've got like a reasonable sized company to do this, which, I mean, yeah, sure, it's maybe less developers, but you still need like kind of like a reasonably large company to be able to make this.
So, okay. I kind of agree with most of the high level thoughts that you have. So for context, I think when you said it might take someone like a month to do this, for our listeners, I think that's probably because we both come from big tech. Mark from Amazon and me from Google, and stuff at big tech just takes a long time because we just have to think about how to do stuff at scale that most other companies, you know, they would, that's a good problem to have for them. And most of the time they don't really encounter those problems. So if, on the other hand, I was working at a small startup, I think it might take me like a week to spit out some code, hook up some billing, get my CEO's credit card, punch that in, and get it up and running like within a week. On the other hand, I think with an LLM, I can spit out code to do this in a small project, maybe in a single prompt, maybe with the Claude's, uh, the coding agent. I might just be able to give it a prompt, and have it just go find the best tool, the best weather API, figure out my project structure, and boom, just add it in a single prompt. And I don't think that's that outlandish. And in regards to getting a human to review all of this, yes, I think there's going to be the need for some human oversight right now because these models aren't that good where they're that reliable. But I think they're also able to write tests and validate that the stuff that they've done is actually correct. So maybe in the case of the Tesla stock analysis, it might have been a more ambiguous problem that an LLM could handle. But for a weather API integration, that seems fairly straightforward, where an LLM can add tests by itself for the API integrations that it's added. And I'm assuming you already have some like development environment, some kind of hosting set up because like you have a project and you're trying to add one additional tool to that project. So um, I think that LLM can like go in your code base, figure out what are the requirements, and add that API, add some tests, and present you with like a nice package solution with a bow on top, and you just like make sure all the tests run, and then boom, submit it. Now, yes, I do think that a lot of the additional overhead that you need, like entering billing, managing deployments, all of those DevOps kind of things. For now, I'm not aware of an LLM that um, is good at that, but maybe some of the like the hyperscalers, like the providers of these dev tools, they might build AI solutions that automate this process for you. Maybe they might have like integration AI agents, like DevOps agents that, just help you set up billing, help you set up deployments, help you set up like continuous integration tests so that when you submit your code, it makes sure everything's running and like do all the reasonable checks and balances that as you scale as a company, you start introducing all of this overhead. So I think like some of it is not possible as far as I know right now, but at least like adding the code, writing tests for the code, I can do it right now.
Yeah, so I think I get where you're coming from when you say you could do this in a single prompt. And I think that is probably true that you could make a call to a weather service in a single prompt and get some sort of small program that's able to feed the data into the LLM and get a response back, right? So I think that is probably true if you look at the weather in a isolated uh, environment, right? But the thing is let's say we don't want just weather, but we want to do all the functionality to make a true, really useful agent, right? Because if all the LLM has access to is the weather, it's not that useful, right? So I think that what you would need to do is you need to have some sort of system that is architected in a way and modularized where you could give the LLM access to all the tools that it needs, right? So you would want, not just weather, but, you want web searching and you want maybe the time and you want whatever it is, like some travel API, you want access to Uber, you want access to uh, everything, right? And I think that like maybe you could use individual prompts for each one of these particular things, but I think that in order to combine them all together, you need some sort of human to help architect the system and put them together. So now I'm sort of talking myself out of it, where it's like, all right, maybe even that wouldn't be that hard to make an architecture where you could make it where each of the individual components of like your tool calling could be put together. But I'm not buying it that you could do all of this in like a day or two. Like I don't think so. I think that in order to make something like bigger and actually make it good. So I think that like when I say good, I mean one that could be scaled to like lots of people and not just something that you hack together. Because I think that it's probably true that if you'd had a hackathon, you could probably hack together a bunch of these things together and make something kind of decent. But I'm saying like, one that is going to run really well, like free of a lot of bugs, not going to cost you an arm and a leg, be fairly efficient. I think that will take a little bit longer to do than just like a single prompt. I don't know. I could probably be talked out of that position.
Yeah, I think we're both kind of aligned on the fact that these agents can speed up engineering tasks significantly. It's just about the magnitude. And again, this is the worst they're ever going to be. It's only going up from here, especially with all the competition in agentic behaviors and all of these companies focusing on coding. So it's going to be a wild time for software engineers. Scary, but also very empowering at the same time, which is kind of a little counterintuitive.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And I think that I'll agree with you that um, I think that the LLM probably could do a lot of these things. And I think that maybe it comes from my bias that I just haven't learned to trust it yet. Because uh, I have seen the LLM sometimes make really subtle errors. And I think that I wouldn't feel comfortable shipping code, especially that was going to roll out to a lot of users that I didn't fully understand. And I don't think that I would feel comfortable actually shipping code that I thought could have bugs or I didn't like completely understand yet. So I know I wouldn't do that. Although I think that maybe at a certain point, we're just going to have to go and then learn to trust the LLM because at a certain point, it will be better than us at all these things. And we just have to maybe not even understand it, just like trust it. Like, I don't know how my TV works, right? I barely know how my computer works that I'm calling you right now on. And I just, I know enough to use it, right? Like every time I put my key in the car and I turn it, like I couldn't tell you all the things that happen when I turn the key in the engine. I just have to trust that somebody else looked into that. And maybe like currently I'm trusting the human engineer, but maybe in the future it'll be the AI. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an interesting discussion. It's definitely something that I've been thinking about more as these tools are getting better and as I'm able to do my job faster. Um, and I think you may have high standards because again, you just came out of Amazon. But it depends on the task, depends on the use case. If you're building a weekend project, something as a proof of concept, something for just to solve a specific task that you might need for like the Tesla stock analysis, for example. It's riddled with bugs, but yet you were impressed. So I think it really depends on the use case, and these tools, regardless, these tools are incredible, and they're getting much smaller and much more efficient and capable of running locally too.
Yes, yes. So I'm assuming you're trying to talk about the new Quen 32 billion parameter model.
That's
Uh,
right. This another fantastic product from China. So yeah, let's talk about it.
yeah, so this was pretty cool. So Quen from Alibaba came out with their new model, which is a really small 32 billion parameter model. So for reference, DeepSeek is 671 billion parameter models. Although to be fair, only 37 billion are activated at a time. And we don't know how big these closed source models are, but we're thinking that um, the things like GPT-4 are maybe around a trillion plus parameters. So 32 billion parameters is really tiny. But what's interesting is they claim that the 32 billion parameter model is similar performance to DeepSeek R1, which is incredible if that's the case, because a 32 billion parameter model, you can run that on your laptop. And that is amazing, right? So
I don't know if I could run it on my laptop, but you could run it on yours. So I have a base M1 MacBook Air model, and you have the latest, what is it, M3 Max?
I have an M4. Well, I don't have the M3 Max. I have the
Okay.
M4 Pro,
Sorry, Pro,
which,
yes.
yes, which I think probably could run it. It might not run it incredibly fast, but it could still run it. So the fact that you could run a model that, as of a couple of years ago, you would have needed, a $10,000 plus GPU to run. and that you can run this on a few $1,000 computer, that is ridiculous. That we're seeing literally in probably about a year's time, an order of magnitude performance in what you can, how should I put this? Like a level order of magnitude decrease in computing resources needed to run one of these top end models, right? So anecdotally, we heard that in order to run some of the older top of the line models, such as let's say the Llama 405B model, that needed to be spread out over multiple GPUs, and each of those GPUs were maybe $10,000 plus a piece, right? So in order to run the Llama 405B model, which is Facebook's top of the line model, that might have cost you like $50,000 plus of GPUs. Now, you could buy a NVIDIA, the latest NVIDIA 4090 or 5090 GPU, which is going to cost you like $2,000, and you could run the very same model really efficiently, or like a very same quality model just as efficiently. So that is amazing that within just about a year, you can run something that would have cost like $50,000, you could run for like $5,000. Now, if this continues, we're going to be able to maybe like end of this year, early next year, we're going to see like GPT-4 class or even higher level performance on something that's going to be able to run on your smartphone.
That's nuts. And it's amazing how people just get used to the best and greatest state-of-the-art performance so quickly. And they're like, oh yeah, that is just, it's just a trillion parameter model with all of human intelligence condensed into a thing on my smartphone. And yeah, it's no big deal. They're like, why can't it, cook me dinner, or why can't it like do more? God, pick up the slack, OpenAI. But yeah, it is really cool. We're getting tiny models that are this capable, and it's all seemingly thanks to the approach that DeepSeek took with their reinforcement learning. So Alibaba with their Quen model, they kind of reproduced all of the work that DeepSeek did, which some have theorized that DeepSeek in turn took the best OpenAI models to distill a lot of the training data for their V3 and R1 models. And it seems like other companies are trying to reproduce their results, and it seems really successful. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of new models just, as we're talking, there might have been another model drop. But yeah, definitely within the next week or next month, I feel like Google with their Gemma models, Microsoft with the Phi, definitely Llama with a big player in the open source community is going to drop another model with all these learnings from the open source community, which is fantastic, to try to build something cool at a small scale. But also,
yeah, for sure.
speaking of the discussion that we just had, I
I don't
asked
know if
one
it's
of
on
these
my end or
models
if it's on your
to
end.
build a weather
One
widget,
second.
and I think I lost you for a sec, but
Yeah, I lost you as well.
I was going to go
Okay.
off on a small segue,
Yeah, sounds good.
and I was going to mention that I asked Cursor to add a weather widget in a single prompt using weatherapi.com. Here, let me share my screen. It's just oh, I might need to give it permissions and thingamajigs.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So while you figure that out,
But anyway, it's working.
Okay. I mean, I trust you. That's awesome. And it actually tells you what the weather is?
Yeah. Single prompt. It tells me the prompt for like multiple cities with a city drop down. It's amazing. Let me see. In Mountain View, it is 12 degrees and clear. It feels like 13. In Chicago, it is 8 degrees. Feels like 6 and clear.
That's Celsius?
Yeah, Celsius. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I just checked that. That seems correct. Let me check the Mountain View weather.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like we're all screwed. The jobs for software developers are going away. So,
Yeah.
so have you seen? Actually, let me ask you a question. What model was a Cursor running?
It was using the best Claude 3.7 with extended thinking with their own agentic option. So they had a bunch of different options to ask questions about your code base, edit specific parts of your code base, or just an agent mode that just runs wild. So that's the one that I used because I figured it would need to take multiple steps, and it did. It built a weather React component. It added that weather widget to the main page, and then boom. So this was a pre-existing app that it added it to.
Do you know how much that cost you?
No, because Cursor doesn't have as-you-go payments. It's just like a monthly plan that I'm on. Hey, I'm not sure. That's a good
So
question.
when you say that Cursor just has a monthly plan, does that allow you to use unlimited prompts on Claude 3.7? Or
Yeah, that's
are you rate limited?
that's an amazing question. I've been thinking about that more lately as inference time compute is like growing. So they have unlimited completions. So you can ask it as much as you want, but they provide 500 fast premium requests per month. So I think they just prioritize the queue of requests based on your plan, and you can pay more to get more.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, that's not bad, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
still a lot cheaper than a human developer.
Oh,
Even
way cheaper.
a developer in a company or a country with a lower cost of living, right? So, I mean, the
I
United
think
States has
so.
some of the highest, right? But even in places like India, where the cost of living is a little bit lower, and a lot of companies have been outsourcing to, this is still cheaper than that.
It's
So,
still cheaper. Yeah.
every, everybody's at risk. It kind of made me think a little bit about OpenAI. So, have you seen that OpenAI reportedly plans to charge up to $20,000 a month for their specialized AI agents?
I did not. Where'd you see that?
Yeah, so there was an article that came out a few days ago where OpenAI wanted to, they were talking about saying, like, hey, we have the best model, right? Maybe, I don't know exactly what this is running. I don't think that this is fully released yet, but this is something that they want to do where they say, oh, for $20,000 a month, we could have PhD level research support. And then for just a mere $2,000 a month, you could have a high income knowledge worker agent. And then another one for 10 grand a month would be the software development agent. So I don't know. I'm not sure who would actually pay for this, because if you're paying $20,000 a month, I mean, that is less than a lot of humans. So unless OpenAI's $20,000 agent is way better than humans, um, like, I don't know who's using this. If anything, this is probably just something that OpenAI is probably doing to get to try to justify their $250 billion valuation, because they could probably do some sort of back of the napkin math and say, oh yeah, if we get everybody to go and use our $20,000 a month tier, then it totally justifies our valuation. But I think that's what's more likely to happen is people like you or companies are just going to spend the $20 a month on something like Cursor and use that Cursor plus some agents, or they're going to, you know, use something like Manus, which actually I don't know what the pricing is for Manus, but I think it's a lot less than $20,000 a month. Or they use DeepSeek and they will not use this $20,000 a month tier. I don't know anybody who's going to use that. Seems
Well, I
ridiculous.
mean, uh, you know, we keep thinking that until the next ridiculous things comes along and then shakes the entire world. So I can see companies that have a need for a very specific skill set that does like a very repetitive task. So customer service agents, they kind of do very similar things at scale. It's not that complex. They're going off of a script, like the company's internal documents, a bunch of FAQs, and there's like a standard list of things that they can work on. Like, let's say you're a Shopify customer service agent and you have like things you're selling, and either you're dealing with like refunds, you're dealing with like missing packages, like something wrong with the product. So if you fill an LLM with all that information and then deploy an agent instead of hiring like a couple dozen, hundreds, if not thousands of customer service agents as your company grows, I can completely see that as a customer for this product. Amazon is like a fantastic use case. Seeing my requests get transferred to AI agents more frequently than like humans. I don't even think I could get to a human in the last few months when I had a complaint. Google, very similar. I don't think they even bother trying to have human customer service people because like everything Google does is at scale. We have billions of customers for each of our products, which are free. So it's like there's no way for a user to complain about search to a physical person. But on the other hand, if we had customer service agents, I think that could be like a really uh, powerful way to automate a lot of the human people, or on the other hand, like enable new tasks that just wasn't feasible to use humans for. Um, and yeah, I can see mid to large companies deploying these agents to solve repetitive tasks, starting with customer service, because that's like always been like the quintessential obvious use case for LLMs.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you, but I don't think that these companies who are happy with just a phone tree for their customers are going to be spending $20,000 a month in order to field their customer service responses, right? I think that the companies that are like a Shopify store, like McDonald's or whatever, like Amazon, who will want to do something like this, I think that they'll either create their own agent, right? Or they will spend, you know, on something like DeepSeek, which is going to cost just a few bucks a month in order to handle their customer support, right? Like, I don't think that you need to spend $20,000 a month in order to take your order at a McDonald's drive-through. I'm not buying that. Like, maybe, oh yeah,
So, I mean, it's like you are not the customer for this product. Like you are a very frugal person, because I know you very well. But we're talking about large mega corporations. Like how much did you cost Amazon? You cost Amazon a lot of freaking money, and $20,000 is like a rounding error in your entire total compensation. So I think if you think about companies like Walmart, or even McDonald's, like a drive-through, McDonald's is a massive multi-billion-dollar mega corporation, and I think they can afford to spend $20,000 for one AI agent that automates like all of their drive-throughs all over the world. Wouldn't that be like insane?
see, but I don't know if these AI agents would actually even be able to automate all the drive-throughs, right? Like, you'd probably need one agent per drive-through, right? Because that's assuming that each agent would be able to receive every single drive-through order concurrently throughout the world, right? Like, I don't know how many McDonald's there are. Like, I don't know, 10,000 or something
Mm-hmm.
exist, right? Let me see if I can find the number. But it's thousands of McDonald's that exist. Oh,
Let's
actually, I
say,
found it. There are 41,822 restaurants as of 2023, right? So let's say each restaurant is processing one order at a time. That'd be 40,000, like 40 to 50,000 agents that would need to be able to process at the same time. I don't think that OpenAI is selling you an agent that's $20,000 that could process all that at once. It's probably having an agent that could probably process one at a time, right? So if you're McDonald's, if it costs you $20,000 to an agent, well, you multiply $20,000 times 50,000 stores. I mean, that's a lot of money.
let's say you are able to process tasks concurrently, because like an agent doesn't need to be like actively running while a person is sitting in their car thinking, which nugget package do I want? So let's say you scale down the ratio of agents to stores by 1,000. So you have like 40 stores. sorry, 40 agents servicing 40,000 stores. That seems potentially reasonable because like you can handle concurrent requests, you can like batch them, you can like order them, process one request, take the other requests, and then once this request finishes, swap the context and like continue in this separate one. So assuming some fraction of total stores, I think let's say 40. So that would be like
So that's
a
eight
little more
hundred thousand
feasible,
dollars.
little more
Yeah,
feasible.
but I think
For a
that what
company at McDonald's scale, I think $800,000 is not that.
yeah, but I mean, so I think that assuming it was 40, although I kind of doubt that, but I think that what's more likely for these companies to do is to get an agent that costs them like $20, and then roll that for each of their 40,000 stores, right? So that would be, I mean, the same price actually, right? Because like if you're
Yeah,
$20,000, 40,000 stores, that's $800,000. Let's say it's 50,000 stores, it's $1 million. And I think that like I would assume that it'd be more likely that a company that is, I mean, a lot of these companies are just having like an iPad where you can put in your order, right? And I think that, the iPad probably costs, maybe a few $100s, or like, one of those touchscreens. It doesn't cost $20,000. And I think that a lot of the business owners would not want to spend $20,000 to upgrade their infrastructure because a person who works at McDonald's may not make $20,000 a year.
no, they make way more. That's like this like below poverty line, even for like part-time workers. No, but I think I kind of agree with what you're saying. This they may be able to use a much simpler model because like the task is much simpler that a drive-through order taking person is doing, but I can see more complex tasks that, like a junior software engineer that is solving maybe like some tedious open bugs automatically, or like fixing linting errors. Like, we often get a lot of, stylistic errors. Like there's some extra white space at the end, or like too many new lines, or, oh, this function name is like an underscore case as opposed to like capital case or like camel case. So like, these kinds of things, I think an agent deployed at scale can solve and actually be worth it if you're trying to replace time of software engineers.
Yeah. So I tend to agree. Now I think this is a kind of like the TAM analysis, like the total addressable market. So I just took a look and it seems like around 7% of households, or around like 10 million or so households in the United States, make over $200,000. So let's say that if you had one of these $20,000 agents, you would, and let's just assume that it was as good as a person that was making over $200,000 a year. So maybe like the absolute most you could, like if you were able to replace 100% of people with that were making over $200,000 a year with one of these $20,000 a year agents, that'd be like 10 million people that you'd be able to replace. So that might save you some money, but I think that like you wouldn't be able to replace 100% of them. Maybe you'd be able to replace a couple percent. So realistically, I could see like the total number of people that you could maybe replace on the order of magnitude of like a few 100,000. I don't see much more than.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a one-to-one comparison. I don't think this is going to replace, like one agent is going to replace one person that's going to cost the same. Like I think it's going to be more akin to one agent replacing a big chunk of work of a lot of people, like a lot of junior grunt work that a lot of people might have to do in their roles. It might replace that. Like, I don't know, like there's a lot of legal companies, legal startups that have come out. There's a lot of medical companies that have come out. These are high value jobs that are just like the amount that the few times that I've had to use a lawyer, the amount that they've had to bill me is like insane. Like $1,000, like that's a lot for an hour. I would much rather have an agent get in the loop and at least like lower that amount so that they're not working for that entire hour. And some of the grunt work is done by these AI agents. So I don't think it'll be like a one-to-one replacement. I think it'll be a lot of tedium, of junior roles or tedious things that senior people do that is going to be replaced by these AI agents.
Actually, that makes a ton of sense. I tend to agree with you. So I was thinking of the example of the travel agent, where in the past, if you wanted to have a trip, you would go maybe talk to a travel agent, have them arrange your entire trip. Now we just make a Google search. We use Google Flights, we use Expedia, and we just do everything ourselves online, right? So it's not that the travel agent companies were just firing the travel agents. It was just that a lot of people, they just decided, okay, we're going to use Google instead. And then we don't even really need a travel agent. And then a lot of these travel agencies just went out of business because people just started using them less. So maybe that's what's going to
So like
happen where,
the
yeah,
the analogy there is the travel agents did a lot of the tedious work of going to all these separate airline providers, looking through their websites, doing the search queries and getting the results, extracting that information. And all of that was replaced by Google search, which was an amazing search engine, which was amazing at web crawling and like scraping and parsing all of this complex information into easily digestible little chunks, and then presented people with a clean UI. So it's actually very similar. They replaced a lot of the tedium that humans used to do with not AI, but like traditional computational algorithms, and then resulted in like massive cost savings for the end user. And also like, I'm assuming more people involved in booking flights and made it more accessible maybe.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think that maybe now kind of like going through this thought experiment in my head, maybe what we'll see is the developer who was maybe not working for big tech, because I think big tech is going to be slightly difficult to replace for a lot of these, it'll be slightly difficult to replace a lot of these developers for all sorts of reasons. But I think that the marginal developer who was doing kind of one-off projects, right? So let's say you're a developer who was developing some sort of custom small plugin for a Shopify store, and you were doing freelance work just for a bunch of small little companies. Maybe now you're like, maybe not tomorrow, but in the near-ish future, a lot of those developers who are doing small little projects just won't even be called anymore, because the person who would have had to hire a developer that, and they would have had to pay maybe $10,000 to do something, they're going to just, use something like Cursor. They're going to use something like Replit to just create whatever small little widget that they need. And then that developer just won't do anything anymore.
Yeah, I completely agree. On that note, I kind of really want to get one of these companies from these AI enhanced code editor tools to come and talk at our meetup, because I think this is going to be the year of agents, as everyone has spoken, and one of the big use case for agents is coding, and a lot of these coding agents are getting really good, especially because the underlying models are also getting really good, because agentic workflows are getting more common. And I've been working on a couple, side projects just to get familiar with these tools. It is remarkable how good these tools are for, one-off side projects, weekend experiments. But also, like, I'm really trying to incorporate more agentic coding tools at work too, to try to get my team to automate a lot of the tedious tasks that we have, because like Google engineers are very expensive. If I can find a way to automate a lot of the tasks that we have, that'll be like remarkable.
Yes. So if you are listening and you happen to be from one of these agentic companies and you want to talk with us, we would love to have you on the show. So, or if you just want to give a presentation as well, let us know. So if you're working at one of these big companies that are doing some cool stuff with agents, reach out to us and we would love to talk to you.
Absolutely. I think I already reached out to someone at Codium, which makes windsurf, and I think they're neck and neck with Cursor as the best IDE. I don't know what happened to GitHub Copilot. I feel like that's fallen off the top lists, but um, a lot of other all-in-one coding solutions too. V0.dev. There's like Lovable, Bubble, I think, .io, and a lot of competition in the space, and it's really exciting.
Because Shashank, you've been trying to use v0.dev a lot, haven't you? How has
I
been your
did.
experience with that?
Um, it's honestly it's fantastic. But you're kind of locked into their ecosystem because v0.dev is an AI um website app builder created by Vercel, a company which makes a popular front end framework called Next.js, and they partner with Tailwind, which is like a styling CSS framework, and I think like ShadCN, which is like a UI component framework. So it's a lot of infra and stuff that this company has been working on already and consolidating under one brand. And once ChatGPT came out, I think they were very good at capitalizing on the capabilities of these LLMs, and it's amazing. You give it a prompt. So I was talking to a friend today, and she was kind of contemplating. She got laid off, and she was contemplating, oh, I don't know if I want to jump back into a job again. Maybe I'll explore doing tutoring, like tutoring services, because she volunteers for um, to mentor and tutor kids to guide them into the next stage of their lives, to get into school, get into university, and figure out where they should apply, blah blah blah. And so she's like, "Oh, I want to maybe start a company or like do this like as a full time job." So I used ChatGPT to do like deep research, compare all the other competitors in this area, see successful examples of people doing this, uh, build out a business plan, take that business plan, put that into V0, have it build out a website, a fully functioning website for tutoring services in our local neighborhood. And all of that in like two prompts. Uh, it was insane. It was ridiculous.
Wow. So it sounds like it's gonna take the development time of creating a business from, I don't know, maybe a year into days. And it makes me think that the cost of software, the marginal cost is gonna be zero going forward.
Over time, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna trend in that direction.
Which is exciting. I mean, it's going to make
It's
it
really
so
exciting.
that everybody's going to have really, really good software, and that software is going to kind of eat the world, which will be both exciting and a little scary. But I don't know.
There, there
I'm
was an
ready for it.
there was an Instagram channel that I was following, and he's like, we talked about vibe coding last week, and he's like, forget vibe coding to bake apps and websites. Let's vibe code in Blender and these game engines to make like realistic 3D environments where I'm interacting with a bunch of other things. And it was like, oh my god, my mind was blown. He made a simulation of a city where there's like a bunch of cars and a bunch of buildings, a bunch of people walking around. The camera like goes around, pans, but the actual the 3D environment is very like rudimentary. They're just like blocks with solid colors for the cars, for the people, like rectangular blocks. But then he passed that into like a video generation filter, and boom, out comes like a amazing realistic a video of a flyby of a city with stuff happening, and I was like, wow, this is a whole new world. I don't know if people fully grasp what capabilities this can unlock. It's not just making software building cheaper. It's gonna really magnify what we can do with these tools. I think we're gonna be building like um I don't know, like a 3D orb revolving and like showcasing your product when you go to like a simple Shopify store, for example. You're gonna have like insane graphical experiences. Maybe finally we might have like GTA 6 land because now they're using AI to build it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be even more than that, right? It's going to be more than just flashy demos of games. I think that is something that we will see. But I think that what we're really going to see is a lot of bigger problems being solved a lot faster, right? So if you can, if you're a researcher, researching materials, or you're trying to do clinical trials where you're doing things, you're going to be able to maybe if you would have created a drug that would have taken you 10 years, and then you could do that in 1 year. If we can assume that you could do a lot of that research more quickly, or you can make a simulation where you're simulating different materials and you're able to make supercapacitors, or if you're able to run simulations where you're merging materials with other materials. And this might make it where you can find ways to, I don't know, metaphorically, or maybe not even metaphorically, uncook an egg, right? Like, how long is it going to take until we find a way where you're able to take a sunny side up egg and put it back into the shell, right?
And get a chicken out of it.
I mean, actually, yes, right? I think that is the type of thing that we're going to see in the near-ish future, where this is going to accelerate some sort of biological research, right? Where we're going to be able to find ways to align with AI and reverse aging, cure disease, solve depression, solve loneliness, solve happiness. All of humanity's problems will be solved by these AI agents or AI gods that are smarter than us in every single way. And I think that in a certain sense, people will just start to think of the AI agents or the AI models almost as if they are like some sort of like God, right? Because they will have God-like power. And when I say like a God, I mean like all-knowing, all-omniscient. It will be able to solve any type of thing, and it will be able to do so. We will be able to create some sort of heaven on earth, literally, because it will be able to be. We'll be able to get rid of all suffering with these models. And I think that is coming, and there will be an age of abundance, and that is what I'm excited for. I'm not excited for some sort of 3D model. I mean, that's cool, but what I'm excited for is to solve all of humanity's problems, because that is what's coming, and it's coming sooner than we think.
Wow, yeah, you really took this down a deep philosophical route, and I completely agree with you. That's the reason I wanted to start a meetup here, because I felt like this was the most important thing that I would experience in my life. It's an exciting time. I agree. I don't think we touched upon a lot of the other core research being done in other fields. This episode was mostly about a couple models and how they can impact software developers and agents to build things to replace tedious tasks. But yeah, I think this is the start. And as their capabilities grow, they're going to replace higher level, more challenging jobs, and eventually, yeah, uncook an egg.
Exactly, because I mean, once you can figure out how to uncook an egg, you can figure out how to do a lot of things, and it's going to solve a lot of problems. And I'm ready for it. But anyways, I think that's a good way to kind of end the episode. So, guys, thank you for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Until next time.